Hello gang, I'm Brian, aka Phoenix Noah, and today we're going to be unboxing the original Prusa i3 from Prusa Research. You ready? Let's do this. Okay, as you can see, this came in a nice plastic. This is sealed pretty well, so it's good for areas like where I live where it can get a little rainy and you're worried about an expensive piece of equipment sitting outside as the post office leaves it there. So I was really appreciative that it was packaged like this. So let's go ahead and start opening this up. Almost feel like I'm opening up a TV dinner. Interestingly enough, that then tells me that I don't even have this the right side up. That stuff was a little noisy, sorry about that. So we got the original Prusa here, nice box, good handle on top. Not a whole lot of tape, that's nice. We will get this open right here. We got the handles that there's probably an easier way to do this than what I'm doing, but there we go. Certainly very sturdy. Lots of good packing material right on the top. Like this stuff a little bit better than popcorn. We'll use it later. Congratulations on getting the original Prusa i3 Mark II. First and foremost, we want to thank you for buying the printer directly from the author, Joseph Prusa. And we got a little bit more information. Manual. Joe's really big on the manual on this. But they definitely have firmware to update. There we go. We've got the gummy worms. Or gummy fries, actually. Interesting. We've got the assembly instructions. These are very detailed. The other nice thing is that instead of just going by the instructions here, you can use both this book and you can use the instructions that are very well detailed online with very large pictures. A couple people use their computer, some people use an iPad, be able to zoom in on the pictures really nicely. Very helpful in this. Hands down, probably from what I've heard, the best instruction book that's out there. We've got our 3D printing handbook. We have the quality check, or the quality control check. Firmware flash, SD card initialization, checking the X and Y and Z access. And mind you, this is the kit, not the fully installed one. So they checked the motors that they were going to use. Invoice, we'll edit that out. Okay, a couple other things. Right off the bat, we got the power supply sitting right here in the middle. Nice Euro plug. And the plugs that will be going to the control board. And we've got a couple boxes that we'll get into in a minute. We've got, of course, our filament box. A couple more boxes. All well packaged. In fact, right on the side here is the heated bed, or heated build plate. And the motor kit right at the bottom. We'll take a look at that in a minute. And we've got a tube, cap came off of it, and this has the different rods and everything that's going to be used to build this. And that actually, when I got the kit, I could hear it rattling around a little bit, and it's nice to know that this is all it was. This is the most rattle that was in this entire box. Okay, we have an empty box. We'll get rid of that. Okay, so we got a couple of boxes here. Got a handy dandy cutter. And we'll start with what is most likely the filament box. Oh, yep, definitely filament. On the side, 1.75 millimeter in European style, so 1,75, perfectly fine there. Temperature print 190 to 210, 1 kilogram orange. We got decent spool of orange PLA to start with. Vacuum packed. Put that aside for later. Let's take a look at the motor kit. Again, no tape. Didn't seem to need it since it was packed so tight. We got our stepper motors. These are nice because these are all very specific to where they go because the wiring is measured per the instructions that I have seen online already. So it keeps the wiring nice and tidy. Specifically, as you can see, we've got, if it'll focus, the Y-axis, and the stepper motors are all labeled with Prusa Research. And then we also have the screw rods in here, pre-attached to their Z-axis motors. I believe that's Z-axis. I'm almost positive. Yes, Z-axis. In fact, it's Z-axis left and Z-axis right. Again, the wires are pre-cut to specific sizes to enable that the wiring is nice and neat when you're done. They are all very standardized connectors as well. That's kind of handy because these standardized connectors will allow you to do other things in modifying this printer, such as taking the control board and putting it outside of an enclosure and being able to build an enclosure around it for ABS printing or other material printing where you need to stabilize the temperature, or even just stabilizing the temperature just to make sure that you don't have any lifting or warping that may occur if you got ceiling fans, really good AC. So having something where you can standardize the wire connections, extend those wires and move it outside the enclosure is going to be really handy for modifying this printer. Okay, 2 Prusa Research boxes. Both of them got tape on it. We'll just zip through that on both of them really quick. One of these is a lot heavier than the other. So we'll start with the lighter one first. And I expect we're going to start seeing some of the printed ABS parts. Yep, there we go. In the Prusa orange, because I got an orange and black model. Orange being one of my 2 favorite colors. So we got quite a few of these Prusa printed parts, including the face plate for the control box, the spool holder for on top, also the enclosure, I believe that's the electronics enclosure, and the filament guide tube. So all that will come in real handy when I do the build. And the heavier box. Sorry for the loud sounds. Not sure how that's going to come out yet. Okay, we've got a number of things here. So the bed, which we're going to see in a little bit, actually has a PIE surface on it to allow for better adhesion. Whether you use that or whether you use glass or anything like that, you should be cleaning off the bed between prints. And Prusa actually gives you your first alcohol wipe right in the box. And what looks like a pin or very small drill bit, possibly for cleaning the nozzle. Ah, yeah. It is a very, very small brass brush that looks like it would be used for cleaning the nozzle out. If we can get a focus here. There we go. A little brass cleaner for the nozzle. Very handy. Love it when stuff like this is done. We've got a whole bag of hardware, bolts, nuts, washers, and we have a very convenient and looks like darn near, no, not quite life size because I can see the bearing here compared to the bearing picture, but at least these pictures are very detailed enough that you can tell, what part you're working with, what part you need to grab next. Describing it by name, so when the instructions say the name, you're able to grab exactly that part. So for instance, here is the LM8 UU bearing and its corresponding picture. And again, just bags of the hardware, all conveniently labeled too, not only with the parts, but labeled with the portion of the build that it's going to be used for. X-axis, Z-axis, the E-axis, power supply, and spare parts. It's nice that we got some spare parts, especially the zip ties. There's a number of zip ties used in this. So having a spare of those in case you tighten it incorrectly in the wrong place, need to clip it off, move it, change it. It's good to have it there. We got USB cable. And most importantly, the LCD. We'll actually take a look at that in a second too. Now, one of the reasons why I got an original Prusa i3 Mark II is, and even if you got just the regular, not the Mark II, is that it actually comes with the tools that you'll need to build it with. So you got a set of needle nose pliers, you got 2 crescent wrenches, and a screwdriver. Not to mention a couple hex keys. No soldering needed. It is all with just these tools to build this printer. So this appears to be a glue stick. Quite possibly. Not all of it is in English, although some of it is, so I'm not sure one way or the other. And we've got the Rambo Mini main board, because unlike some of the copycat i3s out there, this is using one of the newer main boards that has been released. In this case, the Rambo Mini, I believe it's a 1.4 now. They have a couple nice little features on it. It does have the fuses right on board, and most main boards do, understand, but it is good to have the fuses right there so that you're able to switch them quickly. They're standard car fuses, very easy, or blade fuses, very easy to swap out. One disadvantage with using the Mini as opposed to the full Rambo is that you lose the ability to add a second extruder, because the full Rambo has both the movement for the extruder as well as the heat for a second hot end. So maybe that's another modification in the future. Since it is both Rambo boards, you might be able to easily swap out from a Rambo Mini up to a Rambo. Haven't tried that yet, so your mileage may vary on that. And the last box is the actual ED3 V6 hot end. Both with the cooling fans. It's got the cooling fans that it's going to use, as well as the felt foot pads that are going to be put in place. Okay, let's get this box out of the way. And I did promise you a look at that LCD screen. So we're going to be very careful in opening this. There we go. Okay, nice anti-static bag. And there we go. We've got our LCD screen with the, of course, cables that will be going to the Rambo Mini control board. This comes with a SD card. It's actually a micro SD card adapter. And it's got a little protective film right there on top of the LCD. But that will be the main panel that we're controlling the printer through. Now let's take a look at the micro SD card here. You have to forgive the old eyes, but it is an 8 gig micro SD card. So you can, this card of course comes preloaded with a couple of test prints on it. From my understanding, quite a couple. So that will be interesting to check that out once we get this built. So again, we got that nice little tube here. Actually, very well packed. There's a piece of cardboard here that is actually separating the smooth travel rods from the threaded rods. That's very much appreciated. Really helps keep the smoother rods from being scratched up. And also wrapped around, it looks like wrapped around one of the rods, is the plastic wire management. So we'll probably unwrap that later and use that for wire management. Which means all we got left is the heated build plate. Nice full thickness cardboard here. They aren't doing anything thin. They're keeping this very well protected. Again, we want to be very careful opening this up. And interestingly enough, when we open it up, we find that it is well protected with bubble wrap. Additionally to the build plate, you have both the main vertical frame that the Z-axis and the X-axis will be attached to, and we have the frame that the build plate is going to be attached to, and of course the Y-axis. And then even underneath all of that, you got an extra PIE sheet. So, I mean, they don't last forever. So the whole concept of them is that you'll be able to replace them. So it's good that you get your extra one right off the bat. And from my understanding, you can do literally 100, 200 prints before you have to worry about replacing it. Obviously, different amounts of time based on different materials used. Some of them that are going to stick better may pull up this sheet, so you might have to replace it a little bit earlier. We got the heat bed. Don't even need a cutter. We'll just, there's the label's obvious, or this is obvious enough we don't need the label, so we can just go right through that. Okay, want to be careful because we've got the main power for the heat bed itself, and then small power for, I believe it's a thermistor on the bottom that will be gauging the temperature of the heat bed. This, of course, being the underside, and this side being the working surface. Pre-applied PIE sheet. You can actually see a little bit right here is the edge. It is quite well bonded on there from my understanding, and it actually takes a chemical to loosen it up so that you can remove it and place a new one on. Okay, gang, that was my unboxing of the original Prusa i3 Mark II. Hope you enjoyed it. Now, this is my first 3D printer, and the next step is that I'm actually going to build this kit. And I'm going to build this kit live. The date will be announced later and put into the comments below. Hopefully you'll be able to join me for that. In the meantime, it's really going to help me out if you can like this, share this with your friends if you enjoyed it. If you disliked it, then thumbs down as well, and put a comment below and tell me what you'd like to see better on this. Until next time, this is Brian, aka Phoenix Nova.